I am Valerie Davis, as I was just mentioned, and I am the president of North America for Assembly. My roots go way back in retail. I started at Bloomingdale's, where I worked the greater part of 8 years before I went onto the agency side. So retail and the evolution of retail and e-commerce is incredibly a passion for me. So I'm really excited to be here today. Just to give you a little bit about who Assembly is, we're an end-to-end omni-channel media and more agency. We have deep roots in retail. We have several luxe brands and general brand retailers. We work with clients like Chanel, Vince, Ace Hardware. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. I am joined by Angela, as was just mentioned as well. I would love for her to introduce herself, give a little bit about her background and the Aerin brand as well. So welcome, Angela, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm Angela Gruszka. I'm SVP of Digital Marketing and E-commerce at Aerin. Aerin is Aerin Lauder's luxury lifestyle brand. We are built around the premise that living beautifully should be effortless. Our catalog encompasses everything from fashion, home, beauties, and accessories. And my role at Aerin is really focused on digital growth and transformation. I have almost 20 years of experience working at the intersection of physical and digital retail across various luxury brands, from home to fashion to fine jewelry, and started my career at Anne Klein in PR. And I sort of like to say that my career has sort of followed the evolution of the customer experience, starting with PR, moving into e-commerce over many years.
Awesome, thank you. So while we're here today, a great topic of evolution, retail and e-commerce. We've been talking to lots of great brands, and there's going to be continued great brands on the roster today. And as you mentioned, you were brought in, you talk a lot about digital transformation. What I'm interested in is this concept of omni-channel. We've been talking about omni-channel. It started as omni-channel retail, and then it's omni-channel media. And for years and years, we've been talking about like the convergence of retail and e-commerce and what it really means. But in the past, and I think even a lot now, we're working with clients and they're just starting to integrate a bit more. But in the past, as you know, there were generally 3 teams in a brand. It was a brand team, and they were KPI'd separately. And then there was a retail team, and they were KPI'd differently. And then, of course, there was the digital and e-commerce team, and they had different goals as well. And sometimes they never met or integrated or aligned to those goals, because there's a focus on growing the e-commerce store or driving store traffic or ensuring that the retailers that are carrying your brand are, you're being shelved or represented appropriately, or particularly with a brand like yours. So I noticed, particularly in the last few years, that acceleration of transformation, led by the pandemic in the home category. And I think it's really great that we're talking to you today about that, because I think I've seen with our home clients, we've seen a huge increase in what that means in digital transformation. So can you talk to me, like, let's kick this off about, you talk a little bit about why you were brought into Aerin. We were talking about this when we were prepping for the session, because I think it's kind of important. It lines quite nicely to why I wanted this topic to be the true need to be bringing retail and commerce and brand all together. Because as we know, consumers don't differentiate a brand whether they're shopping in retail or online. They really want that brand experience, particularly with a luxury brand, to be very high-end or a very nice experience. And as we know, consumers are loyal to experiences. And if a brand delivers that, then they will also be loyal to your brand. So can you talk a little bit about the pandemic, the need for transformation, and how you kind of entered the scene, if you will?
Absolutely. So I actually joined Aerin as a result of the growth that we saw organically from an e-commerce perspective. So the brand launched about 10 years ago through wholesale distribution at Neiman's, Bloomingdale's, Saks, all the major doors, as well as 3 retail locations. And so the focus really was not as much on e-commerce. We have a very, very luxury, affluent customer. And the initial thought was that this customer was more experienced shopping through physical channels. And so even though we did have an e-commerce channel, the focus and emphasis really wasn't on that area of the brand. And then the pandemic happened and the business saw a huge shift. We saw around 30 to 50% growth year over year from the pandemic. And that's why the brand decided that they needed a leader to come into the organization to really focus on building out the digital business. And as Valerie said, home has seen a huge shift since the pandemic. Consumers are focusing more on improving their home, their surroundings. There's been many more investments in that area, and consumers have not been shy to transact digitally. And I think that really, opened the eyes of our founder and saw that this is something that is here to stay, that our customers are comfortable transacting for very high ticket items through our digital channel. So since I've joined the brand, my focus has been building an online experience that is reflective of the store experience. And I think what's so important about, is bridging that gap between the physical and the digital experience. And we were a brick and mortar focused business. And what makes our brand so unique in those stores is really the experience that we offer the customers. So it's a high level of attention. It's the trunk shows and the unique events, the appearances by Aerin. So that is something that I've been really focusing on with my team, is like, how can I elevate that digital experience? How can I serve the customers the way that we serve them in store? And in terms of the organization as a whole, as Valerie said, it was a bit of a siloed organization. So I've been working very hard on building that cross-functional collaboration and looking at the business holistically and not from a single channel point of view, because it really is, customers don't view a brand in terms of the channel. They view it in terms of the brand and the brand experience and consistency across all channels. So that's something that we have been really focusing on. And it's been very interesting to see, the growth of the home category online and our lighting category. And we're actually, we've taken that data and that demand from the customer, and we're actually opening up a new brick and mortar experience in the next few weeks in Miami that's going to be focused more on home. And as we move forward, we're really going to look at, what can we do online to, replicate that experience in store.
And how, so talk to me, because you're working with retail and you're working with your D2C stores, and then you're working with obviously e-commerce. So is there a general sense, has the company changed in their way of getting the teams to work better together? Are they KPI differently, or is it just a natural evolution of the world we're in? I'm just curious about, because I know that has been somewhat of a challenge with some of our clients, where, we have a client stakeholder who's really truly focused on, I just want store traffic, just get me the traffic in the door. And then we have a client who's like, no, I just need to lift my sales on e-commerce, make sure you're, driving repeat sales and increasing your AOV. So I guess the question for me is, how are you working together to ensure that the experience is good and integrated? Because I think that's a really hard thing to do when there are differing priorities. And is it a matter of KPIing the team as one, or just, is there any insight you can provide there?
So I think the way that we're structuring the way we work together as teams is more focused on either a product launch, a trunk show. It's really focused on the initiative opposed to the channel specifically. So whether it be a fragrance launch, we speak about it in terms of, we're launching this fragrance. How are we going to communicate it in store? What is that experience going to be like in store? What is that experience going to be online? Our focus is really on selling the Aerin Lauder lifestyle, not the product per se. So, for instance, we are launching a new fragrance in a few weeks. And the idea is like, it's not just the product. So we're going to launch an edit, an experience online that, that brings you into the world of, Aerin Lauder and then what inspired the fragrance. And so we come together as teams to talk about like, how can we support that initiative or that launch to ensure that the customer has the best possible experience with the brand and consistency across all touch points. I think in terms of data, that's something that I'm working on right now, is just surfacing up more of the customer data to show that there is value in looking at this, holistically, opposed to, channel by channel. We're not competing against each other. We should be working together as a team towards, one single goal. So that's something that we've been really working on. I think that from a technology standpoint, we're still working on building that foundation and building that systems architecture to support that single view of the customer. That's something that's on our roadmap. I think we're very light sort of on the tech stack at the moment, but that is what we want to work towards. But I've been even working with the retail team where we need to work on a point of sale refresh that'll integrate into our e-commerce experience. We don't have that right now. We have two, single sources of data. But I am working on something right now that we're rolling out this week that'll enable our sales associates to enter data directly into our CRM, even though we do not have a direct connection. So, and they're very excited about that. And I think that will just reveal more about how our customers are transacting against, across channels. And, from an e-commerce and a marketing perspective, one of our big goals this year is cross-channel orchestration. Again, really connecting the dots between how the customer is browsing and interacting with our brand across all the channels.
Gotta love the work from home lifestyle. My phone was ringing in the background, which is why I got up for a second to turn it off, and the mute button is still a pain point. So it's interesting that you say that, and it's funny how you talk about your tech stack and it not being where you need it to be. And I think you're so passionate of getting there. And I think about when you talk about your story and Aerin's story and the fact that you've been part of this organization for not that long and you're building it. And I have to say, I'm working with brands like, and I've worked with some brands for years and years, long-term clients where they still don't have it right. And there's always challenges. So I would say that that's an awesome step because I think about, point of sale and being able to link it back and having that one view of a customer is so important. I think it's important for them too, because in maintaining the Aerin brand ethos, we were talking about it internally about how particularly luxury brands, it's an opportunity, but it's also a huge challenge to have that experience. I think about, and I believe LVMH is here talking as well, right? And I think about what they would say about how their sales had gone through the roof, or like, and the key thing was to make sure that they're maintaining that unboxing that is just like the luxe feel. So the one area of this integration that you don't speak a lot about, but I know it's particularly where Aerin has gotten its visibility and introduction into the homes of so many, are like we're talking about the owned retail and we're talking about the e-commerce. Is there a way, and I know it's a little bit harder because obviously like the Lord and Taylors of the world, the Bloomingdales of the world where I come from, they own their own customer data. So it would never be easy to do it in that way, but have you thought about ways of ensuring a customer experience where you're able to integrate the third-party retailer, if you will?
I think one thing that we're talking about this year is how, we can invest further into marketing with our retail partners, because the way that I look at it, it's brand awareness. It's increasing our brand recognition. And I think it's very important that our products and our brand does not get lost. And so we invest a lot into our creative that brings you into the world of Aerin. So that's something that we're talking about this year, is how we can, bring that experience to each of our doors to ensure that that the customers really understand it's their introduction to, the world of Aerin. And then the hope is that that will drive, our customers back to our store. And, just speaking with our customer service team, that's something that we do see. We do have customers that actually come from Neiman's and Saks, and they're looking to, continue their journey into the world of Aerin. So I feel like it's a good brand introduction for customers that do not know us. So it's important to put our best foot forward at every single customer touch point. So, that's something we work very closely on with our wholesale team.
No, definitely. It's a great customer acquisition too, because then often they'll buy the product in the store, and then they will come back to Aerin because then there's that passion that builds in it. The panel right before us, they talked a lot about, I want to call it, they didn't really classify it this way, but they were ending the panel in terms of social commerce and experience in that regard. I mean, talking about like the entertainers and the Etsy aspect of it. And you talk a lot about trunk shows. And if I think about how, like, we're talking a bit about how you're integrating the brand experience in terms of functionally and with the tech stack and making sure that the teams are integrated. But from a marketing perspective overall, when you talk about the trunk shows, what are some of the bets or some of the channels that you're looking at that you think are going to be key to driving this evolution of an integrated retail and e-commerce experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I think going back to the idea of like elevating the e-commerce experience and trying to replicate like that real world experience, something that we're really excited about is live stream shopping. I definitely think that for our brand in particular, it makes a lot of sense to enable the customer to interact and experience, our products as Aerin walks them through the line and introduces the different items that that we're selling and tells the story behind the product, what makes it special, why she loves it. It's really coming from her voice. And I think it's incredible how that technology has evolved, and it just enables customers to seamlessly transact while a host is introducing the product to them. So that's something I'm extremely excited about. I mean, I think there's a lot of experts that say that, there's a lot of hype around it, but I think if it makes sense for your brand, recently I read a stat that said that live stream shopping is going to reach 11 billion this year and 25 billion by 2023. So those are huge numbers. Like I said, I think it's really about how you leverage it to your advantage. I think it's, like I said, having a strong host. I think it's how you promote it across channels, having the right technology to offer that seamless integration, and even, potentially, incentivizing the sign up to attend. And I think those are all, I think really important ways to interact with it and leverage it to your advantage.
I love that. And I think it's also bringing that Aerin experience, that luck experience into people's homes, which I think is very cool. And I know that we have some clients who are also looking at that. Looking ahead, I know I do want to offer, if anyone has questions, you can certainly start throwing them into the Q&A or chat and we will get to them. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about the future forward. Talk to me about, like, not big bets, but like if you were thinking really like where the world is going in technology. And again, we've seen any clients who are moving towards digital transformation, they certainly have accelerated it in the last couple of years with the pandemic. But in terms of like the true future looking innovation, I feel like innovation is so overused, so I was looking for a different word, but like where are you looking at next? You talk about live stream, which is, I think that would be considered innovation in a way, like it's being done, but it's not being done, to your point, in all of the right ways because it's being newly introduced. But where is that next big thing that you think's happening in digital? And I'm curious about your take on that.
I'm afraid to say the M word, the metaverse.
Yeah.
So I think I'll define it as Web 3.0, which I think is very interesting. It's sort of infinite connectivity. Like if we think about the evolution where Web 1.0 was more about the internet, Web 2.0 was more about social, and 3.0 is really about how it connects, people, our surrounding places, things, social. It's like all of it coming together. I definitely do not think that we're there yet. I would say it's, probably 5 years down the line. People are talking about this being the year of the metaverse. I think that is not true. I don't think we're going to be there. I think there's a lot of hype around it. I think that Facebook, in its transition to Meta, has created a lot of hype. So it's more about the PR. I think it's interesting how brands are experimenting in that area. And I think that everybody should be aware of it, should learn about it, but I just don't think we're there yet. I think the future is really going to be about that integration of our digital and physical worlds. I can't imagine, any of our customers, living in this, this virtual space. And again, the metaverse isn't a thing. It's many places. It's many, many things. So I really think it's going to be about how, that the digital world meets us where we are in the physical. And, it was interesting because I just read something recently that, Disney had filed a patent for a virtual world simulator, which is essentially, AR without headsets. And when you think about the metaverse, and as we talk about it today, it's about putting on these clunky devices. And it's, there's so many different components of it, whether it be, the hardware, the software, the infrastructure. And again, when you start to think about all of that, none of it really makes sense yet. So I think when it's more seamless, it's more integrated, we will be there. And I think as brands, we need to be aware of it, and we need to start to think about how we can integrate into those experiences seamlessly. But again, and I think that's really exciting, but I just think we're not there yet.
No, I would agree with you, but I do think it is it's so cool, and it's really going to be interesting to watch how it evolves. And I do think not just brands, but agencies, we all have to be right on top of that. So I'm super passionate about it. I mean, Nike, I was talking to you earlier, Nike had just made that acquisition to really support their future in the metaverse. But I love that what you said about how, they're calling it the year of the metaverse. You don't really think it is. It just harkened back to the time when Google, it was the year of mobile, but it really took, I think it was 5 years. We kept hearing it's the year of mobile, it's the year of mobile. And then 5 years later, it actually was the year of mobile. And I think it was very funny because when mobile was definitely here, people were still talking about it because it became so muscle memory of it being the year of mobile that they were talking about how, oh, it's the year of mobile. I'm like, no, mobile's happened already. Where have you been? And now it's like you don't even talk, think about evolution of e-commerce and retail. Mobile is like you lead with mobile, right? And if you think about how it's either we're really old or I just don't, it's very funny. It's because now everything we do is focused on mobile as a mobile first experience. That just cracks me up, and we'll see how long this year of metaverse happens.
I think what's interesting is like, if the metaverse was mainstream today, there isn't the infrastructure to support us for all of us to be in the metaverse, because it requires so much support from like a 5G perspective, and the towers don't even exist to enable like true 5G to power it. So it's impossible to be mainstream. And I think that people don't really go that deep to realize that.
Yeah, it's more about like the trendsetters, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get a small fraction of those people getting onto it, and it'll slowly evolve, and then eventually it'll be the hot topic here. We'll probably be here in 5 years, and it'll be the hottest topic, or it might be the next level of the metaverse.
Yes.
I believe I'm just trying to keep time. Is there any questions? I have to look. I don't see any questions. Should we continue? I guess we can continue. Hi, Evie, how are you?
You definitely can continue, because I'm on the edge of my seat. This was fantastic. And, you talked about the value of a strong host. So keep on hosting. You're doing great. Any projections, prognostications?
Actually, that is a great recommendation in terms of a follow-up question, Angela, is like we talk about looking ahead. and then you also talked about how you're focused on live stream. Why don't we talk a little bit, why don't we even take a bit of a back step in what you're doing from a marketing perspective in an owned, earned, it doesn't even have to be paid, but in an owned, earned, shared ecosystem to help deliver on the Aerin brand experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I think right now we're really focusing on, evolving our user experience. We're really building Aerin as a destination for gifting. So again, when you think about coming to the Aerin store online, it's about how you can find that perfect gift. We've seen a huge opportunity in gifting. So we're working on improving our packaging, working at improving the checkout experience, bringing gifting all the way down to the PDP. We're focusing on loyalty and retention, which I think a lot of brands have focused on over the past few years. We recently launched a private client program. So when you talk about omnichannel, that is something that this is sort of a proof of concept and MVP that we're working on, and we'll further invest into the technology just once we can validate the return on it. But that's something we're really working on in terms of, really building out an elevated experience for our best customers. And I think just to offering that, frictionless, seamless customer experience is something we're looking at on a daily basis, looking at the data, looking at time spent on site, and ways to really offer a premium experience, so that, when we do drive new customers to our brand, they'll keep coming back. I think something that, we didn't speak about that deeply was really social, and the evolution of social. And I think that we're very lucky to have Aerin, who is a borderline influencer behind the brand. So she is really the one that's providing credibility to all of our products. And I think that the influencer marketing space is really evolving, and we're trying to figure out how to best work with influencers. And I think this is really going to be the year of micro and nano influencers, which they're more cost effective to develop partnerships with. And I think it enables, brands to develop relationships with, people that can promote them from at a more human level.
My head of social is saying right now that's music to her ears, because she has long spoken about how the micro and nano influencers are actually more important in a lot of ways than the macro or the celebrity type influencers, because it is more authentic and organic to them, because they typically they have the love of the brand more than anything, and there's this passion for it. So we as an agency, when we're talking to our clients and our brands, we're constantly pushing the concept of ensuring that you have this organic and authentic experience with your consumers by using people who are using your brand day in and day out, and not leveraging so much the Kardashians, or no offense, Kardashians, but you know what I mean? It really is more about them seeing themselves almost, and then seeing this love for the brand. I think that's a lot of why those TikTok products are taken off too, which is another, I would say, a big bet for a lot of our clients. We're seeing a lot of trial based on the experience, or just the TikTok influencers, and most of them or all of them are micro and nano influencers. I love that. And I will say, if anyone has not been to Aerin.com, they should go there and they should check it out and shop. I think now is the time. The last couple of years, we've all been outfitting our homes. I have the background on now, but we've all been outfitting our homes so that we can actually stop looking at the same things. And it's been a lot of fun, designing, redecorating our homes. So definitely check out Aerin.com. It is beautiful. And it definitely will live up to everything we've talked about today. So thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Valerie.
There was one question, it's a little bit generic, but I think both of you are experts and can maybe touch on this. Sarah Pollock asked, what's the biggest piece of advice you have for brands going through an active transformation? And how do you bring teams together to drive towards a common goal?
Yeah, well, I'll take it from the agency perspective, because we see it all the time. And there is one client in particular that I will not name a name to, but that what we struggle is their internal challenges. And I think it's more, you know, I always like to say all boats rise with the tide, right? So that everybody should be very focused on the end game. And whether an organization or a brand like an Aerin or a Chanel or whoever, KPIs their entire organization as one, you know, you have to kind of benefit for integrating. I sometimes feel like when we're talking to some clients, they don't want to inconvenience the CRM team, even though we know, particularly in the, and we didn't touch on this today, but we probably should have, the privacy aspects, right? I think now more than ever, it's hugely important to bring all the stakeholders across a company, a brand, or a retailer, because you're gonna need your customer data. You're gonna have to, first party data is hugely important to anybody's business in today's day and age. So if we have a client who is uncomfortable, or there's the separation of church and state as it relates to technology or CRM or retail, then we're just not going to be successful as an agency. So we can lead a horse to water. We cannot make them drink. We need the organization that we're working with to, and we're happy to support it in any way, whether it be summit or client boards, which is some of the things that we're trying now. But what I would say is it's very important to get the internal teams working together to see the greater good of what the overall impact can be for the business. And I think if we focus on business outcomes, holistic business outcomes for a brand, and that there's not this, and we let go of being precious about our one area, I think that will be very important. Do you, Angela, have a build on that from a brand perspective?
I would agree. I mean, I think it's really important to establish a steering committee of, leaders from each of the respective areas of the business, and define what are those common goals and how are we going to get there together, and what is required to get there, and ask how are we going to get there, because I agree it's very easy to state, transformation can happen through all of these different technologies, or, and people are very resistant to change and how it impacts their respective areas. But ultimately, I think if everybody's working towards these common goals, it does help us build a roadmap together. And to do it over time, where it wouldn't have as much of a drastic impact, on resources from different teams. So I think it's really about defining those goals and having a steering committee that meets on a regular basis to help drive that change.
And then I think the last build would be, it comes from the top. I think about when you talk about Aerin Lauder being the top influencer, and her seeing the need and the opportunity and bringing you in. I think that's key. So if it comes from the top on what we're trying to do for a brand and driving that brand ethos, then I think that we're going to be there's going to be a lot more success in the business outcomes of a brand or retailer. All right. Thank you for that question, Sarah.
Good one. We got a lot of mileage out of that one. I love it.
Yeah. Clearly, I was
Valerie,
passionate about it.
Yeah. That's good. I love the agency and brand perspective. That's what Brand Innovators is all about. Beautiful. If you don't have any more questions, I have a softball question.
Sure.
Okay. Do you buy into the color of the year? I think that for 2022, it's this sort of periwinkle tone. So I'm just wondering if Aerin buys into that and leverages that color of the year.
Unfortunately, we do not.
I don't know that that's unfortunate. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think, we look at, customer data, customer demand over time, and in our products are, they're already created and they've already went into production by the time that color of the year was established. But we really focus on creating products that Aerin loves, that is, focused on what our customer wants. So we're not as much driven by trends. We're really focused on quality and classics, and really building that lifestyle.